Welcome to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Hey, that's me. Hi, and welcome to Positive Talk. Our show features the best positive stories and people from around the globe as we endeavor to answer the universal question of why am I here and what is my purpose? Understanding that can change everything, and knowing your greatness is fundamental to living your best life. So join us right now as together we work to create the adventure of our lifetime. And welcome to the show, everybody. I am so pleased I get my friend Rochelle to be here. And how are you today, kid?
I'm doing really good. I have so much energy today that I'm glad I have somewhere to put it.
Well, wait till you get done with this episode because you're going to have even more energy. Um,
I can imagine.
and so would you like to go ahead and introduce our guest for this hour?
Of course, we are welcoming in our guest, Ivana Ivanek, and she is in the Caribbean, which I cannot get out of my head. And she's here doing amazing things, helping entrepreneurs find their route in life. So, welcome, Ivana. How are you?
Hello, hello. Stoked to be here. Thank you for having me. I was excited for a long time to come on the show. And just as Michelle, there's lots of energy that needs to be put somewhere. Ready to roll.
Exactly. And so you're in the Caribbean or Caribbean, depending upon how you choose to say it, I guess. And your partner's a scuba diver instructor and has a company down there. And you are operating an online business and you're doing different things and you're coaching and you've got a podcast. You're a really busy person.
Some would say.
Well, that would be me. That's what I say. Is that you're really busy? Tell us a bit about yourself and your background and the business that you are focusing on to help people get through the burnout and the problems that are inherent with trying to either run a company or work for somebody who says, "Oh, I think 60 hours a week is a perfect work week for you."
Mm-hmm. I think this is something we learn to do, Kevin. I have to admit, I am not sitting only on Caribbean beaches day in, day out and just pop in to have an awesome conversation with awesome people worldwide. I am working too, and I have pretty much I would say, regular working hour. But I've been examining that couple of days ago as I was questioning my happiness or asking myself, am I really happy with what I do? And the answer was yes, don't worry. But there was a time where I wasn't, and it was many, many years ago because I wanted to live, not knowing that it was the Caribbean at that time, but I was looking to live by the ocean, travel the world, do meaningful work as someone who helps people, and I wanted to be famous. So now what might sound like a little girl's dream, the dream was real because I felt a gift, a wisdom, something within me that I knew that I need to bring to the world, not knowing how. And if I would have expressed it, or if I did, I was waved off with a good luck with that. You know, growing up in an immigrant family, my family moved from Serbia to Austria in Europe shortly before the Yugoslavia war. My path to climb the corporate ladder was paved. So, and I was following that. But I quickly realized that it wasn't really the working hours that have made me so unhappy because it was just a given. Everybody was doing it. And it's so easy to to follow the crowd. It was more the sense of I'm waking up every freaking day at the same time, going to the same place, not knowing what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. I was unhappy. Why I'm going out for this networking after work conversations and drinks, staying out till 1 a.m. at night, being tired the next day to just repeat the same thing again. And I had these thoughts already on a very, very early age.
And so you just decided now, help me here, because I think that this is something that everybody goes through, everybody does at one point in time when they say, well, this is okay, but why am I really here? What am I here to contribute? What am I really here to be? And a lot of people go talk in those terms, but then they go like, you did for a while, which was, oh no, you can't do that. Good luck with that. You're not going to make any money. You're not going to be happy. How are you going to live? What are you going to do? And all of that. How did you get through that?
I mean, I've been exactly there. Questioned how I'm going to pay my bills. What are going to people think of me? What does my grandmother think of me? I was meant to be a doctor. And how did I go through that? First, I procrastinated for a decade, which I don't recommend anybody. It's a waste of time. Ain't gonna get you anywhere. And the fact is, sitting and thinking in inaction will make your problem only bigger. Because in fact, when we question the how before we know what we really want, it will make things tricky, because unless you state really what you want from life and how you want it, the how to pursue it will almost unfold immediately right in front of you. Perhaps not the whole process, maybe just the next step. But the thing is that what I've observed over more than a decade, having conversations all over the globe, helping people establish businesses, making money, and living an extraordinary life, is that nobody really knows or dares to say what they want, because it ultimately means we need to commit. It might become true, right? This is the thing where we then start asking, yeah, but if I say what I really want, then I also should go and do it. And then there is a fair chance that I might succeed. And that scares people, because we are often like I was. If I succeed, leaving my home country, which was a safe city with free education and free universities, and I was that bastard kid who didn't want to go to university and not questioning school and wanting to live in low economy countries because there is a beach and run a business. Like, I was misunderstood on every corner I went, because nobody could really see the ambition, nor was I able to verbalize it. But I was afraid that if I make that step, will people hate me? Will they abandon me? Am I going to lose my friends, my family? And in fact, I realized that I got over the point by listening to my intuition, what I really want, and asking myself, you can't live a life like this. You are only 20. Like, it's going to take forever till you leave this planet Earth. This is how you want to spend it. So I was looking for options. I left everything open. And I asked myself, what is there that I can do? And I do this also in my training sometimes, where like people ask me, like, write down 100 things on how you could potentially get to where you want to be. After we cross the number of 10 or 15, it gets tricky, because then we need to get really creative and thinking outside of the box, outside of the narrative of how things are done. Because first comes the random stuff that everybody knows. And then after that, we are really tapping into our inner wisdom and trying things. And at some point, I just got an opportunity, and I had that feeling of, am I really doing this? Okay, what's keeping me here? And to keep a long story short, it was nothing. What's on the other side? Back then, it was 2018 in Greece. A lot of fear, uncertainty, but there's a beautiful ocean. So let's go and try it, because my worst case scenario would be that I'll go back home, back to corporate, back to how everything was. And so I did.
And you know, the interesting thing about your story is that a lot of people, when they get to that point, when they say, I wanna, this is what's, I don't even know exactly what it is, but I know that I'm looking for something else.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I'm looking for something more. But then that doubt creeps into your mind. It's like, well, I'm married. What would she say? What is that? What is my mom and dad going to say? They're anticipating that I'm going to do this, and now I'm going to tell them that I'm going to go do that. And so a lot of people are not prepared for the changes that will happen in their life when they make that decision, which is the right decision, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But they're scared of the consequences or the results of what it is that they're going to go do. And so they shut it down. And that is the biggest saddest part of our lives here is when we shut it down and don't do what we were born and what we came here to do. Does that make sense?
Makes absolutely sense to me. I see people putting their dreams on the shelf every minute, probably, or every time I ask someone, what is your dream? And I'm making my research already for a long time, because people have dreams. Like, what are you dreaming about? And then you see people with their eyes sparkling and telling stories and what they could imagine and what it could look like, feel like, smell like, be like. And just before the last sentence ends, even before the period comes, but I don't know how. And I'm like, and that's it? Is this where we stop? But I do also understand where this comes from, because you mentioned something interesting, Kevin. First of all, you mentioned consequences. Consequences, or the consequence, is perceived as a negative word.
Correct.
If you do something, something will happen. I started neutralizing consequences because, hold on, every decision you make has a consequence, and it can go either way. So the consequence, perhaps, of disappointing someone, but living a extraordinary life, or the consequence of not pursuing and not hurting someone or be misunderstood and living a miserable life, and everything in between. So the choices we have. And then you said change, which I was like, exactly. And especially these days, where we are moving from the industrial age into the digital era. Logos are being replaced with personal brands. Like, literally, opportunities popping up on the horizon like mushrooms in a forest after a rainy afternoon. That means that there is also lots of opportunity. There is lots of, things we can do right now, because we have the chance to expand globally beyond borders. And this is, unfortunately, a fast-paced era. And the change is happening quite quickly. So now somebody who has some aspirations and is like, tempting to go into that world and be like, I'm going to try this. These are just very little numbers of people, because there is still so many generations who are not used to quick change. And it always takes, there is always the trailblazers who need to run first and pave the path forward for the others. And then comes society. And society is always a little bit late. And I'm always saying to people, you know what, if we can change something today, let's adapt to change quicker. Because then we also allow people to just live their lives without having to be judgmental, or somebody has to fear someone's opinion, because pretty much nothing has to be like it was.
And to that point, Rochelle, I'm going to bring up an old name again. Do you know who Roger Bannister was?
Nope.
Ivanka, do you know, Ivana, do you know who Roger Bannister was?
No.
Then, oh, goody, I get to tell this story then. And once upon a time in the 30s and 40s, 1930s and 40s, there was a thing called the 4-minute mile, that everybody wanted to break the 4-minute mile. And doctors were coming out saying, well, I don't think the body can go that fast. And so we don't think that anybody's going to ever be able to break the 4-minute mile. And then Roger Bannister came along and he said, you know what? I don't believe that. I don't believe that for a minute. I'm going to do it. And then, so he did. He was the very first person to break the 4-minute mile. And you know what happened after that? Within 3 years, 5 or 6 or 7 other athletes broke the 4-minute mile, because he was the trailblazer who said, yes, you can, because if I can do it, you can do it. And that's one of my favorite stories of all time, because it just tells us that we have the capabilities to look at someone like yourself, who is doing all the things that you're doing and are living exactly where you want to live, and you're having the lifestyle that you want and all of that. And so it's important that people can look at you and go, I want what she's got, and I have the ability to go do that. And does that make any sense to either of you, Rochelle?
Yes, 100%. I mean, what I've been thinking about is almost kind of the same thing. I loved how you mentioned fear, Ivana, too. I know we'll take a break here in a minute and I'll ask you about that, but I always think about did you ever see the little picture book with the caterpillar? And it had like the super thick pages. It said like the super hungry caterpillar, something like that. Um, I remember reading that book a lot and looking back and thinking, so many people stay in their cocoons. For one, they don't even come out, or they do, and they're like, oh, well, this is comfortable. I don't need to change. And really, when you limit yourself to not being able to adapt to change, then you self-sabotage everything for yourself, because then you get to decide how everything looks in your mind. And so just having the awareness and the understanding to at least acknowledge that change doesn't have to be negative, I think can be a huge key point that everybody in the world can see differently right now.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely, it does. It does, because I see change as something, and I think I've practiced quite a bit, because we are changing constantly, changing how we want to live, and even countries. Like, nobody would go like after 5 years and be like, let's just start over. Like, we came to Curacao, to the Caribbean, not even having been here a single time. So all my research I did was on Google, and I did it wrong. Like, okay, I completely, I was disappointed when I came here. So I needed to change my whole perspective and how I'm approaching change now. Because also the digital space is changing, life is changing, my life is changing. I'm 37 in 2 weeks. So I'm going into the 40s. So the body is changing. Our relationships are changing. Going from a young relationship, now being in a relationship for 6 years, dynamics are changing. And I'm trying everything in my life that comes at me, because let's be real, there is so little we can control. And the way I like to take it and perceive it is as something exciting that comes my way. So I'm not saying it's always easy, because sometimes it's pretty much sucks and it can be tricky, but it is exciting in a way, because nothing stays the same, and you literally know what's on the other side if you look at it now. But if we stay in our cocoon and we don't look at things around us and don't seize the opportunities and don't see what we can improve about ourselves and our environment, it can become not just very, for me, this would be, I think, a worst case scenario that I could potentially live. Not to strive to be the best version of myself every day, to live the best life. And I'll be honest with you all, I wake up tired sometimes, because it was full moon, because I had a glass of wine. If we have 2 days over next day, because it comes with aging. I do sports. I started dancing salsa every Monday. Mondays are my day off, so I always feel like I'm on a mini vacation. I meet my friend. I go for a drink. We go dance salsa, and week starts on Tuesday. This week I needed a day off because I couldn't move my body, but yet there was, I had to deliver. So life is just being life. But if you can approach that, if you do things that keep you, happy, that really spark you every single day, you're going to do them tired despite. You will be able to put those emotions on the side and be like, oh my goodness, I'm going to meet this person now. This person needs my help. I'll be there. I'm going to talk to Kevin and Brichelle. Yes, let's do this, because you are on a mission.
And by the way, I just need to tell you, at your tender age, and I mean tender age, you've got a tremendous amount of life left to live, and to live exactly the way you want to. We need to take a quick break, and we'll be right back, and so that Rochelle can ask her the other question she had in mind. At 67 years young, I never thought I'd feel this good again. But thanks to Purium's Ultimate Transformation Lifestyle, to date, I've lost 37 pounds and gained energy, confidence, and a whole new outlook on life. This isn't a diet. Purium is a complete lifestyle change, giving me all the natural, organic, nutrition-packed superfoods that fuel my body, crush my cravings, and help me burn fat naturally without starving myself. No gimmicks, no guesswork, just a simple, proven system that works. Superfood shakes, detox support, and real results. If I can do this at 67, imagine what you can do. It's your time to feel better, look better, and live better with Purium. Let's do it now, and let's do it together. Go to www.positivetalkradio.net and click on the Transform You to get started. That's positivetalkradio.net. Transform You. And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. And Rochelle is here. And Ivana
Ivanek.
Thank you. And that was in stereo. That was very good of you both to do. Rochelle, you had another question you wanted to ask.
Yes. Well, yes. Okay. I can phrase it into a question. You had mentioned fear, Ivana. Through your journey of going through that, because we know I realize that a lot of time we talk about fear, people think, oh, well, once you get past that, then you're good. But fear is always creeping in. It's just like guilt. It's just like other things. You have to consistently acknowledge it and let it pass through. But what were some of your biggest challenges when it came to facing fear in your mind and in front of you rather than what you believed that you could make happen?
Rochelle, do you mean like how I overcame the fear of being misunderstood and rejected and
Yeah.
judged? Yeah.
Yeah, and like how you are able to now help other people not be so fearful.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, I just got to add to that. Oh, you mean the part about everybody's going to hate me and I'm going to be awful and it's awful and everybody and those little itty bitty teeny weeny things in life that go on? Yeah, those are the ones.
I'm just clarifying because there is obviously a fear of rejection, which concerns also the outside world, and fear of failure, which is at first personal, but then moves onto the outside world because we don't want to appear to the outside world as a beginner or somebody who doesn't have it together. But when it comes to life decisions, I realized and I observed 3 characteristics of people you will come across, probably more, but if I put them into categories. And as you said, Rochelle, there is nothing that we can do about fear really, because you can't eliminate it. Luckily not. We need to fear certain things. Otherwise, everybody would be jumping out of a window, trying to fly. And how would that look like? Imagine, guys, like we need to, fear is here to protect us. It is in our DNA. It's something that really keeps us from doing stuff we shouldn't be doing. However, it does its job all the time. And we need our conscious brain sometimes to tell it, like, okay, how I can keep myself safe to do it anyway. Can I lean into community? Can I ask help somehow else? How can I prove myself that if I truly fail, that I won't die? Because this is not the case. This is just what your brain signals. So I can later take you, if you want, to the worst case scenario exercise that I'm doing, which is super fun. But to go to these 3 people you will encounter, when I was speaking about my big dreams, there is type A. These are trolls, people who cannot understand your ambitions because they are living in this cocoon, as you mentioned. And they are not even willing to understand you. And you will see that people easily project their fears on thoughts on you, not even consciously, but they will tell you things like, shouldn't you be focusing on family instead of traveling? Shouldn't you be, allowing your husband to make a career and you step back as a woman, especially? Aren't you too old for that? Isn't that too risky? And in the end, it just leaves you behind feeling unworthy of what you want to be doing. So now that we know that not everybody can understand our ambitions, and if I speak about my vision sometimes, I see people falling down the chairs. They get motion sick, but they'll be like, oh my God, what is she talking about? This woman is mad. And by now, I'm cool with that because I know that not everybody can understand, and I'm not dedicating my energy into explaining things. If you have a question, find me. But I'm not going to explain you my whole, everything, because there's no receiver.
Yeah.
And by the way, I want to continue that, but I need to take this real quick break here to mention Krista Wergeland, because I've known her for 60 years, and she and her mom are together today, and I just wanted to shout out to them because they're listening to us live. And I knew her when she was just a wee little lass, and
Hi, Krista.
and me too. So she's really cool, and she is also one of those people that went to school. She did well. She wanted to go to a foreign land, and so she went to Japan, and she was highly successful. Obviously, she learned Japanese, but she was highly successful there. And then she came home and went to New York, and she comes to Seattle every now and again. But those are the types of people that I look up to and say that she had intestinal fortitude, to be able to do all that and stuff like you're talking about. And there was fear, I'm sure, that was involved with that, but her and your innate desire to do something bigger and better overcame that fear. And or did you this is a cool question I'm going to ask you. Did you embrace the fear and say, yeah, I'm a little fearful of that, but I
No.
want to knock it out of the park?
No, at the beginning, no, I was ignoring it. And this is what brought me pretty much, made me hit rock bottom mentally, physically, financially, and losing my first business because I was hiding it, pretending like it never existed. In fact, doing these things is not just, uncomfortable, but it's also extremely dangerous because you are scratching on the burnout door, like you are knocking, trying to, to sneak in without consciously knowing. And I'm embracing it now that I know how to communicate what I want to say. I know to who to communicate it, which will bring me now in a moment to type B of people. And I also know when I'm scared, what I can do in order not to be so scared. And that is, I'm not gonna gatekeep. It's taking action. Never sit in your room, in your corner, hiding, hoping to be found. But go out there, find people who understand you. And this is the type B of people. Communities, like back in the days, let's say Stone Ages. We can't remember that. We haven't been there, but we know from books and history that
I may have been there.
people were nomading in groups all over the globe, and they needed one another. It was pretty animalistic. Like one person was making fire, the other person was hunting, the third person was cooking, the fourth person, I'm just putting it now into an image, was making the babies. Then there was a person raising the babies, and like all of them. So people had a function in their societies. And if you didn't behave and you were kicked out, you wouldn't have survived probably a night if you didn't know how to hunt and make fire. So we need to understand that in today's societies, if your family doesn't understand and belongs to the type A people, don't waste your energy there. Go find someone who understands. So I now know that I can reach out to Kevin and Rochelle, because whatever I tell you about, being crazy and thinking big, we will have a conversation. You will ask me questions. You might even question me, but because you understand, I will always receive constructive criticism that might sting at first, just as any other criticism. But then you will realize that receiving constructive criticism is moving you forward so much quicker. So we can lean into these communities. And what I have observed since I have stepped into my full potential, living my life, doing what I'm meant to be doing and helping people, I also realized, because my family is the type A, or was, they're transitioning without me really doing anything, because I'm not going to let's say family lunch when I visit them in Europe. Of course, I get the question, how is Instagram going? And how is business going? But these questions, what they actually mean is, are you okay? Do you have enough money and enough to eat? And are you happy with your boyfriend? This is what it means, like literally, because if I tell my family that I messed up a launch or a project didn't go the way it's supposed to be going, my mom will be scared and worried about me. And I think stepping into my full leadership role, it is my responsibility to protect her from that if she can't understand. So I go to people who do understand. However, what I've seen, that I knew that traveling wasn't for us, that's for the rich. Living in countries where the ocean is, that's for the rich, because it's the only thing possible is a villa in Miami. A house in Curacao is, out of the picture because it's only what we see. Running businesses, we don't have entrepreneurs in our family. So I stepped out of that. And what I see right now is when I'm abroad and I have a speaking gig, let's say, or when I'm in the Netherlands where my partner's family lives, my mom keeps on asking, like, what about a weekend in that city? And I'm like, hold on, you. I thought traveling is not for you. I didn't say that ever, and I won't. But I know that by me paving the path forward, I am healing these generations without moving a finger. It's with just simply being me. And another thing is when people ask me, like, what are you doing on this Instagram? What are you talking all the time? People do not speak English. And when I expressed my wish to be a digital entrepreneur when I was going to school, I was sent to my room to study for school. I have a 10-year-old niece. She wants to become famous on YouTube, mad rich, to help all the street cats worldwide. I don't know what that's gonna be. But if she expressed her wish now in my family on the dinner table, she is not waved off anymore. But people will say something like, you know what, first, her mom first, you gotta be 16 first, and then go ask your auntie. So there is no longer, this is not for us, because people are seeing that things are for us. My family is traveling 2 times a year to the ocean because I live here. They wouldn't have come to these places if it wouldn't be for me. So the type C people are the people that we are impacting by taking action and stepping into our full potential. And this is the beauty in stepping into your full potential. No matter how difficult it is, these rewards are one of the biggest I've ever experienced. And this is also what takes away my fear, because I know the impact I can have on society is just something that is beautiful.
And it works. And it works for you. It can work for anybody. And by the way, we're talking with Ivana Ivanek.
There you go.
You got it.
Yes.
I'm so nervous. We need to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. And I want to get into more of this because it's vital for people to understand that if they use their intuition and they look at their heart and to see what they want to do, that it's highly possible and likely that you will attain your goals, or new goals will develop along the way, and you'll say, oh, I think I'd rather do that. And that's how it will all shake out for you. If you say yes and you trust. And we'll be right back. I'd like to talk about that.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
As you go about your daily life, look closer. As you gather with family and friends who love and support you, look closer. There are youth right in your community who don't have the home, warmth, and healing you have. So look closer. Every year across America, a staggering 4.2 million youth are homeless or trafficked. And for 50 years, Covenant House has worked relentlessly to keep them safe and protected. Tonight, 2,000 young people will sleep safely in a Covenant House bed. And tomorrow, they will wake up surrounded by love. They get clean clothes, hot meals, medical care, and a safe place to sleep. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In sites across America to help them fulfill the great promise of their lives. So look closer at Covenant House. To help or get help, go to covenanthouse.org.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. And I got to figure out how to get Rochelle's. I'm not sure how to do that yet, but she's become an integral part of this little adventure of mine. And I do have to say that there are several things that I have been working with her to teach her over the last year. And what is the one saying that I tell you, you already know, that I tell you incessantly?
And I now tell myself because I'm learning. Let it be is what Kevin always tells me. Um, and really, just with anything, any feeling, emotion, thought, situation, just telling yourself to let it be can be more relaxing than I thought when I started to believe it and understand what he meant for sure. So, but it took some time, as I'm guessing, for everybody it does.
And that of course is the gospel according to Paul McCartney. Let it be. And the other thing is, the other two words that are in my vocabulary is trust and know. Not no N-O, but K-N-O-W, to know. What do you think of that, Ivana?
Of trust. I think we have definitely, as human beings, an intuition, a guide, if you wish, that we professionally learn to ignore in all possible ways. It starts how we are raised in our Western world, because we are growing up in a praise-based world where it doesn't really matter what you do as long as you're doing it well. So it starts in a young age where I was striving for good grades, where literally no one ever asked me what I did in primary school. If I had ones, fives, or sixes, like I can speak, I can read, I have intellectual property that I can monetize today, great. But nobody asked me how school has been. If I knew back in the days that if I could listen to my intuition, which I had, but you know what? The $10 I got for every good grade was so much more cooler than, being the with being told off to go to her room and study for school. So we are conditioned not to listen to what is really ours, because it is a way of living that is kind of safe. You are embedded into structures that feel comfortable, that your parents can deal with it. They don't have to explain why you don't go to university if you just go. My parents had to. She again not there. Like, she went for one semester, now she's traveling the world doing something else, and I understand only later that, of course, growing up in a Slavic family, what other people think of you is very important. And you very quickly unlearn to not trust yourself, your intuition, because you are being, and I'm not going to say it now very boldly and phrase it boldly, you are being taught that everything you think, as in fully you're stupid. It doesn't make sense to the rest of the world, and therefore it is not legit. However, learning to tune into that, and this happens simply and solely in silence. However that might look for you, might be scary, it's not always beautiful, but as you say, sitting there and just learning to, first of all, feel your toes, because this is what it starts for. Many people don't even stand on a solid ground. We have the feeling we are constantly like on a cloud, but not on the good one, but like somewhat like hovering above, trying to stabilize everything around us. But when we once find ourselves standing on solid ground and able to listening to our intuition, you guys will be surprised what comes up there. And it's magic that happens.
And I'd even go a little bit farther than that, and to say that if you trust in where you are and the things that you want to have and the things that you want to do and who you want to be, you can be those things, and the universe or God, or however your guides, however you want to phrase it, will be there for you to make things happen in remarkably magical ways. At least that's been my experience. Has that been yours?
Yeah, we need to trust. Like every time we try to control something, it gets somehow out of hand because we can't control much. One thing is to learn to trust that you can always learn and make things work. Because we have proven this a gazillion times. Like this is for the logical brain to know that if you've been to university, you've been to school, you learned how to drive a car, you know how to tie your shoelaces, you know how to walk, and just this way, like, or learned Japanese or whatever it is, we can tap into that and trust ourselves that we can fully trust that we can learn new things, no matter the age. It does not matter. And the other thing is that often we try to force it and want to see the entire path in front of us. And that's often not just daunting. Many people can't see it. And then it also means like, yeah, maybe I don't even know where this is all going. I shouldn't be even starting. In fact,
Mhm.
to know is the next step right in front of you and taking that serious, because the moment you take that first step, step two comes. And if we try to bypass these little steps, and I mean the tiny, tiny little ones, like making a decision, committing, looking into what do I need where I am and what do I need in order to go where I want to be, which is a simple gap analysis in business, but we didn't learn that to do this as human beings with our skill sets and soft skills and what we really bring to the table. And these are the first little steps you do. And the moment you have that black and white right in front of you, I love paper and pens. Like everything that comes out of my mind on paper magically it transitions or evolves into something. So never try to bypass any little step of these, because as you go, this is how we go to step 100, 1,000. And you don't have to know what's out there because it's never going to be what you have imagined anyways. You may have your vision board, but it's going to look different.
And it's going to be unique to you, and it's going to be actually better.
Yes, and the timeline, the way how you think it will happen, most likely does not happen. Because life happens in between.
That's not what we should be concerned with. What we should be concerned with is saying yes to all the experiences that happen to us in life so that we can learn from them and then evolve into who we are destined to be. At least that's my humble opinion. Rochelle, you've heard me say that a billion times, I think.
Yeah, actually, I have. But I understand how powerful it is right now because it seems so simple. Like you were saying, Ivana, those little teeny things. It's in the details. It's in the breadcrumbs. It's not, you probably see people, they have their business, they have this, they have that, they're unhappy. Or like the other end of it where you said it's the opposite of that. They love their life, but they have very little. And why is that? It's because of those little details in the breadcrumbs and how we perceive them and how we follow them. Because a lot of times, like you said, it is right in front of your face. We're just not open and ready to see that it's right there.
And it's amazing how the entire I believe that our entire experience here is set up that way for us. For us to get to where we want to get to be who we want to be. And I'm really irritated with the two of you because you have got so many more years left. Can you imagine where you're going to be, Ivana, in 30 years and the impact that you're going to have on the world in the next 30 years? And you, young one, in the next 40 years, the impact that both of you get to have or get to have the opportunity to do. Do you ever think about that?
I think about it a lot, definitely, because I am paving my path forward as nobody can do it for me. And I do not have the family support. I have my communities right now. And I learned to dare to think big. Because that's the other thing. Once we are past the point of thinking what other people think of us, if we do it, then we quickly realize that you might be judged for needing more than anybody else. I was like, why do you need that? Why would you do that? But I always like to say, we don't need anything beyond our basic needs. In the Western world, if we simplify it, it's some light, some water, some food, some love, roof above of our head. But this is not determined by how big your house is. Like, we don't need nothing of that. And anything else you want, you can create. And we need to make the distinction between needing and wanting, because we don't have to be needy for nothing. We can want. And I want a lot. And I want it big. And I want to give back a lot.
Yeah.
I want to, yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, because what you just said is a cornerstone to a successful life, in my view, is that giving to other people, being kind to others, setting yourself up so that you can help people achieve where you're going through your experiences, giving it to them so that they can learn as well. And that, I believe, that is our highest calling.
Absolutely. And some people find shame when it comes to around building businesses, and especially, monetizing intellectual property. Some people always say, like, I don't need so much, and I don't want to be too famous. Like, okay, hold on. You're not going to become famous unless you want to become famous, because becoming and being famous is hard work. But I always tell people that if you build your simple systems, that same system can make you $1,000 or $100,000. And the reason why you should want to make $100,000 is because we need a better wealth distribution worldwide. Because only if you make a ton of money, you can pour it into other people. You cannot give back philanthropically if your wallet is empty. We can give as much, but if you want to make this bigger, then you cannot be in debt, not having the energy to do anything. Like, this is because giving back philanthropically is expensive. These are investments. And the other thing is that who cares how much bank you make? And there was this analogy that is so incredible that I heard just yesterday. If you decide to be in a year from now, fit AF, like the fittest person on earth, you will go and share it on Instagram and be like, come on, follow my journey. I'm going to show you, blah, 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 blah. And if somebody would say, I'm going to be rich AF in a year, and if you ask the people if they would share it on Instagram, come on, follow my journey, people would be like, no. I'm a bad person if I want to have a lot of money. So, in fact, what I mean to say here is that people are doing, like, we are circling a lot around shame of who we want to be. Like, even when I teach people to have a greater impact and be more visible, people are ashamed to be impactful. That word alone, to be powerful, because it's perceived as something bad, people who are needy and greedy. But in reality, you heard those stories before, having an impact can be something very powerful and beautiful, and it really changes the world.
Well, and you know that with the work that you're doing, the podcast that you're doing, which is, by the way, called Online Business by Design, and go there and you can go to our website, which is, oddly enough, onlinebusinessbydesign.pedigree. Is it pedigree or pedigree?
It's pedigree.
.io. I made it through that. We need to take a quick break, but when we come, by the way, you are delightful.
Thank you, Kevin.
And you're so smart. And I want to talk to you a little bit about, we have got a huge reach. I now have got a lot of people who know my name, and sadly they even might know what I look like, but because my voice is better than anyway. But none of that matters. What matters is providing a big enough reach so that people like you and Rochelle and others can live their best lives and learn the best ways of living those lives. And that's why having you on the show is so danged important. And I want to thank you for being here.
It's my privilege.
And we'll be right back.
Last week, Brandon met a girl on a dating app. One day after work, he finally found the courage to ask her out. No answer. He started to panic. Was he being too pushy? Maybe it was too...
Hey, sorry I didn't respond. I was driving. I would love to go on a date. How does tonight sound?
Brandon tried to play it cool, but inside he knew. A girl so smart, so responsible. She must be a keeper.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald and friends. I'm with two great women here, and I just want to thank you both for Rochelle for being in my world. And you know the interesting thing, Ivana, is that she just dropped out of the sky and ended up in my world, and I didn't know her, and suddenly I did, and that's how it happens for me. And I'm sure that how it happens for you as well, is that if you think in a positive way and you just allow it to be, great things will happen, and they will just show up if you trust and say yes to the universe. At least that's what I believe.
I truly believe that too.
And there are so many of us that are out there now, and it is so cool to see that so many people are doing so well with understanding how it really is and how we can be really helpful to the world and to be, I didn't figure it out till I was in my mid-40s, and at least figure it out to a certain extent. I'm still learning now, but to think about being younger and to understand how fast the world is moving, like you said, and being able to make those transitions and to be able to move and to have so much time, that for heaven's sakes, that's just really cool. So I applaud both of you, because Rochelle has learned so much in a year. Do you have any other questions that you would like to ask Ivana? I know you do. Rochelle, that's to you.
Oh, sorry. I was like waiting. I'm like, oh, you're asking her to ask a question. No. Let's think. I think one of the biggest things was, if you could have looked back, I love asking people this. If you could look back at your younger self, what would you tell that person that would help you if you had to redo it?
What would I tell her? First thing, I would tell her to stop following crowds, to stop wanting to be liked. I was, running in circles, needing for survival, needing the best clothes, attention, because I couldn't give it to myself. I couldn't give the love to myself because I always felt to be a little bit different than the others, or maybe the others were too, but we didn't speak about it. We've been, we've done what everybody had to do and never had conversation and communicated our real dreams. And another thing what I would tell her is, go do it. You have my permission to do everything as long as it is intentional, and do it now. Don't wait 10 years.
That is really good advice. Because the thing is that you may not have 10 years. And if you can make an impact today, we don't know, none of us have any idea. The only thing that we know is at one point we're not going to be here anymore. But it's important for us to make as big of a difference every day when you wake up, and to create your own reality in your own world each day that you get out of bed in the morning. If you're willing to do that, you can accomplish anything.
Mm-hmm. I think if someone sets out for an adventure, a big vision, a mission to move countries, build a business, having a family, whatever that is right now so scary, you wouldn't have had that thought if you wouldn't have had the tools that are already within you. There is something within us, a knowing, or that I knew at all times, that I was putting on a shelf and getting it back, dedusting it, whatever that was, that kind of feeling that, but I know how. And often we do not need to know why we know. There is a deeper wisdom in our human beings that you know perfectly how to raise a child. You don't know maybe how to immigrate in another country, but you know how to Google. And if this is something that is calling you, go make that Google. And if you don't know how to build a business, then you can ask Google, or you can ask people who have done it, because this is how it goes. But everything you need is already within you, and you just need to dig up that potential, because I have the impression, or what I have seen in having this gazillion conversations all over the globe, that human potential is being wasted because we think that somebody else might think something about us. But in reality, they are so busy thinking about themselves and thinking what other people might think about them, that nobody has the time for you, really. So go ahead, do it.
And I would like, if I can add a little bit to that, what I would add is that in many parts of our globe, we take 50% of our population and say that they are less than. And I'm talking about women. And some of the most remarkable human beings I've ever met just happen to be women. And we should know, we must get rid of those expectations of the little woman, she needs to be in the kitchen just doing what the thing is and raising the kids and shut up. We need to respect each other, and there are people that are, and you're right, we're wasting an amazing amount of talent because we're not giving everybody on the planet the opportunity to be the best that they can be. At least that's my humble opinion. What do you think?
It was just International Women's Day, and I sent out a message out there that perhaps it is time to stop fighting and using words that are connected to war, even because there were so many people before us, women and men, who have fought relentlessly for our rights, and they are there. Now it's the time to learn how to put them in use and how to seize today's opportunities. Like, we don't need more rights. We need more impact. We need more courage. And the world needs more conscious leaders. And waiting for something else to happen, I think the time has passed. The time is now to create that change. And we have everything we need right now.
I couldn't agree more. Rochelle, what do you think?
Yeah, really, it's how we talked about. Change is everything. We need to adapt. Kevin always used to say, what you think of me is none of my business. And it kind of goes back to, the mirror thing, how when someone's having a conversation with you or vice versa, whatever their fears are, they're going to project on you as to them yourself. But that's because that's what's inside of them. Maybe if we can recognize that instead of mirroring ourselves with other people, that we could let those mirrors down and just be as we are and use that reflection. And I loved how you talked about positive feedback, because in today's age, you can't really give somebody any feedback and expect it to be a strong relationship after that. So really, just we need to open up. We need to get curious with ourselves, and like Kevin always says, just let it be. I mean, control only what you can. Somebody yesterday on one of the shows said, control what you can and surrender the rest. Otherwise, you're wasting your own time and you could be doing something else that's better with it. So I'm trying.
And Ivana, we've just got a minute left. I would love for you to say anything that you want in regards to your podcast or anything.
The more important thing than my podcast is that if you have intellectual property, a wisdom, a gift that you can bring to the world, it is your responsibility to deliver it. If you want to know how and you want my help or you want to get in touch with me, I am hanging out on Instagram. I'm having great fun there. My podcast, Online Business by Design, is available on every platform. There you will find mindset and marketing tips and tricks and cool guests who give you everything you need to build a successful online business. And you also will have this access to my website and direct contact to me. I'm a very approachable person. I love human beings. Just send me the text, ask that question. Everything that I can answer within a couple of minutes is for free, and I mean it. Ask
Ivana,
questions.
thank you so much for being here. And will you come back and see us again?
Yeah.
Of course I would. Can't wait.
Okay, I got it on tape. You're stuck. All right. So thank you, everybody. I hope everybody has an amazing day. Thanks for listening to this episode of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Our purpose is to provide everyone with a positive, entertaining, and educational experience. I would love your feedback and comments about the show, including possible topics and great guest suggestions. Please email me at kevin@kmmedia.pro. And remember, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got. That's Kevin